The Avengers see Cyclops standing over the fallen Quicksilver. Unsure if they're the real Avengers, Scott shoots Hawkeye's bow out of his hands. Black Panther moves on Cyclops, stunning him, and tells him to lead them to Magneto, but the X-Man thinks it must be a trick. He takes Black Panther by surprise, then destroys the floor beneath Goliath, using their distraction to get away and come up with a plan to save his team. An hour beforehand, Angel arrived at Avengers Mansion when he sets off one of their alarms. Goliath has T'Challa join him, and they find Angel trapped by the security system. Warren is freed and tells them of Magneto and offers to lead them to his lair. Goliath shouts for the Avengers to assemble, and Wasp and Hawkeye quickly join them. They soon reach the island, but the fortress is mysteriously gone. They get an odd signal from the island when Janet finds an electronic bug in Angel's wings. Thinking him to be Magneto's spy, they detain him as he pleads innocence. They then try to find a way onto the island. Hawkeye shoots a camera into a crevice, and they see Cyclops talking to Quicksilver, and they leave Angel behind. In a control room, Magneto sees that the heroes are falling into his trap, wanting to pit them against the X-Men, when Toad points out that the heroes are getting closer. Toad begins to express doubts when Magneto yells that he wants revenge on the Avengers as well, when he knocks his lackey away as he begins mocking him. Wanda defends Toad while Magneto threatens him. Meanwhile, the Avengers begin fighting each other after Cyclops retreated. Hawkeye lunges at Goliath, who easily restrains the hostile archer when T'Challa tries to break up the fight. Adding fuel to the fire, Black Panther is thrown away, causing T'Challa to doubt his joining the team, when the Wasp yells for everyone to stop fighting and focus on stopping Magneto. Elsewhere, Magneto hears the fighting and begins his plan to force the X-Men to fight the Avengers, and tells Toad that their restraints were reducing their mental defenses, allowing him to control them. Cyclops, having freed the others, goes to help the Avengers when Magneto assaults their minds, causing them to become aggressive and wanting to destroy their allies when Beast spots them. The X-Men attack, though Black Panther senses something is wrong. Beast leaps at him and misses T'Challa, but manages to at least grab onto him. Cyclops shoots the ceiling onto Goliath, while Iceman deflects an arrow from Hawkeye. Goliath, though, seizes Scott, who turns to shoot him at full power. Freeing his foot, Cyclops shoots the Avenger, who is getting desperate to win the fight. As the conflict continues, Black Panther sees the path to victory. T'Challa takes the offensive and defeats Beast, while the others do the same with their matches. Magneto discovers that someone tampered with his controls and swears to find them. Angel, having freed himself, shows up and attacks both Magneto and Toad. The Avengers tear into the room, telling the villain that they knew about his ruse, but Magneto isn't concerned about the attacks. Magneto holds the heroes back while screaming for Toad to flip a switch, blowing up that part of the island. Fed up with Magneto's abuse, though, he instead moves to destroy the whole island and guides Wanda and Pietro to safety while Magneto escapes another way. Magneto leaps at Toad's ship, but finds it's not metal, and Toad refuses to let him on, causing him to fall into the ocean. The heroes quickly make their escape as the island explodes, leaving nothing behind. We join the X-Men as they are gathered before Xavier's grave. They each grieve for their mentor, this being their first chance to do so since his death, the graveyard filled with only silence. They are then disturbed by a man who urgently wishes to talk to them. Scott recognizes him as Fred Duncan, and they head back to the school, where they are met by Foggy Nelson, a lawyer from Nelson and Murdoch, as he prepares to read Xavier's will, and Scott learns that he's now in charge of a fund to help other mutants. Foggy continues reading, telling the students that Xavier left everything to them. He finishes, and the teens bid him farewell, and they turn their attention to Fred, who has a dire warning for them. Elsewhere, the Juggernaut is floating in the Crimson Cosmos when he is engulfed in light. Appearing in Charles's laboratory, he realizes he's free and moves immediately to fight his brother and the X-Men. Before he leaves, he destroys the machine that returned him. Scott, feeling a tremor, has the others change into their costumes to investigate when they find Juggernaut and tells the others to be careful. Kane explains how the machine brought him back and demands to see his brother when Angel tells him that he's dead. Refusing to believe it, Juggernaut rages and attacks the heroes. The teens, though, are no match for his power, as the Juggernaut makes short work of them. The last one left, Iceman coats Marco in ice and tells him that his brother's gone when the villain begins straining against his icy prison. He breaks free and a chunk of ice hits Bobby, knocking him out, allowing Kane to hunt for his brother. Breaking through the wall, he sees Duncan and, not liking what he says about Charles, throws him out the window and sets out to find his brother. The X-Men recover from their fight and move to stop Juggernaut. Warren finds him in the cemetery and attacks when he is thrown back. Jean grabs him as he is about to jump on him, while Bobby forms a giant ice ball which he gives to Beast to throw. Jean, seeing their only hope is to mentally attack their foe, assaults his mind. Struggling against the pain, Juggernaut grabs Angel and holds him hostage. Jean stops the attack, telling Kane that it was her when he begins disappearing, setting Warren free. They check on Warren, who is alright, when Duncan arrives and tells them that they must split up as they are easy targets for evil mutants. Wanting them to leave the school, he says he'll give them instructions on where to go, and Scott reluctantly agrees with him. Scott disbands the team and has them all begin packing. As they begin leaving, they say their goodbyes to each other as they head back to their parents' place, while Scott wonders about going after Jean as she has her own thoughts about him. We join two members of the disbanded X-Men as they walk the streets. Hank is having doubts about the FBI's plan and hopes that they haven't made a mistake in being split up when he tells Bobby that they should go see their girlfriends. At a nearby theater, a man called Mahayogi is enthralling his audience. The teens attempt to get tickets to Mahayogi's show, only to be told that it's sold out. Inside, the magician begins hypnotizing the crowd, wanting to turn them all into his slaves. The crowd filters out while the villain congratulates himself. Meanwhile, Hank and Bobby are at their usual cafe when one of the locals walks up and picks a fight with Hank. As the man attacks, Bobby short-circuits the lights, blinding him. Hank moves quickly and throws the man, who calls for his friends, but they're frozen to the ground. Taking the opportunity, the duo leave with their dates and return to the theater to find someone had cancelled. Taking their seats, they recognize Mahayogi's voice as the Warlock as he calls for the audience to gaze into his eyes. He hypnotizes the crowd into his service, but Bobby and Hank's mental defenses save them and they slip out to don their costumes. Jumping on stage, they confront Warlock. Beast attacks, but goes flying due to sticking to the floor, and is attacked mentally to lose his sense of direction in the air. Iceman retaliates by unleashing a flurry of snow at the enemy. Reacting quickly, Warlock throws an illusion of ice and snow back at Iceman that's so real that he's convinced that he'll die. Beast attacks from behind, breaking the villain's concentration, but falls victim to his gaze when he moves to punch him. Under his spell, Beast becomes helpless, while Warlock pounds him relentlessly before dropping several bags of heavy sand onto the helpless hero. Though weakened, Beast's will to live shocks even Warlock, allowing Iceman to destroy the floodlights. Confused by the exploding lights, he loses his concentration and decides to run away before his plan is foiled. Warlock tosses a gem that would destroy Iceman's senses, but he ricochets it back and the villain is exposed to his own attack, nearly driving him insane. The crowd, freed from their enslavement, begins cheering on Beast, who grabs hold of the stage curtain and throws it over the Warlock. Iceman moves and grabs one of the stage speakers and sends it towards him. The Warlock is completely overwhelmed by the constant loud noise of the speaker. Screaming that he gives up, the cops arrive to arrest him, and the two heroes quickly don their normal civilian clothes. Outside, Vera and Zelda are waiting when Hank and Bobby show up and work their way back into their date's good graces and head off to a coffee shop together. We join Jean as she is modeling in a studio photo shoot. As she laments being away from her friends and family, the photographer trips over a wire, causing a heavy lamp to start falling on him. Jean discreetly slows the lamp's fall, allowing the man to catch it. One woman remarks how Jean is a good luck charm when the saved man invites her to dinner. He's interrupted, though, by the uncanny appearance of Scott. Elsewhere, underground, machines are being awakened from an electronic sleep by a being calling itself Computo. 3 robots are brought back to life and await at their stations for their orders from their leader. As Scott and Jean leave the studio, he tells her about his new job as a radio reporter as they head to his recording studio. He explains that it allows him to monitor all the news, as he points out that outside, a new transmitter is being unloaded as it is being watched by the earlier robots. The trio of robots jump out as one of them attacks with ultrasonic waves. Seeing the confrontation, Scott and Jean move to suit up, while one of the workers moves to ram one of the robots, but is spotted too soon. Struck by the ultrasonic wave, the truck begins to shake itself apart when Cyclops and Jean show up to disrupt the attack. The red robot threatens Cyclops with thermal heated hands as he backs him into a corner. Cyclops shoots the robot as the green one inhales deeply, causing the hero to be pulled, then violently pushed into a wall as it exhales a torrent of winds. The green robot leaps to kill Cyclops, who is dazed and confused on the ground. Jean grabs hold of it and keeps it in the air as Cyclops regains his senses and shoots an optic blast, destroying the robot. They turn to see the ultrasonic robot escaping, and Cyclops asks Jean if she can track it mentally when she starts to get something from it. Getting a lock on the robot, they follow it to a suspiciously abandoned work site when Scott blasts a nearby pile of sand. Behind it, they find a series of tunnels, and following along, they find the robot's hideout. They see the ultrasonic robot as it admits to its failure and is condemned to being dismantled and rebuilt even better. At that moment, the duo is detected and more of the robots are activated, forcing them to defend themselves against their attackers. Jean manages to hold some of them back with the mental shield, which she hardens and smashes them with. Cyclops sees that it's hopeless to fight the grunts and begins making plans to go after Computo itself, figuring it will stop all the robots with its defeat. Finding the leader, he releases an optic blast, then repeats it until there's a huge explosion. Congratulating themselves on their victory, they are interrupted by a cyborg called Quasimodo, who tells that he built Computo in the first place. Fleeing, Quasimodo activates a switch, releasing an underground river to defeat the duo, locking the door behind him, trapping them inside. Jean then grabs Cyclops and levitates them both out of the tunnels. Outside, he blasts the tunnel to seal the water inside, and they relax in the aftermath of the fight. We join Angel as he returns to Charles's mansion, reminiscing about old times. Looking over the room, he suddenly hears a ticking machine and becomes suspicious. Knowing the machines are shut down, he begins flying through the house looking for the source of the noise when he finally finds it. The noise is coming from Cerebro, with an emergency switch activating upon detecting new mutant energy, and he tries to contact Jean. She hears him and manages to link Scott, but is unable to connect with Hank and Bobby, as she is unable to find them right away due to them jumping out of a plane for their undercover job. She connects with Hank for a second, distracting him. Bobby sees this, and Hank realizes that it's too late to pull the cord of his parachute. Thinking quickly, Bobby quickly crafts a pair of grips and catches Hank, saving him, while Jean wonders why she lost contact with him. Elsewhere, in a mansion in San Francisco, guards are addressed by a mutant called Mesmero as he praises Magneto. Using a machine built by Magneto, he begins to send out waves of signals causing various people to make their way to him, all of them being dormant mutants. Mesmero sends guards to patrol for the X-Men, while in the city, a controlled woman walks into oncoming traffic, but Bobby subtly lays a sheet of ice onto the road. An oncoming car narrowly misses her as she slips on the ice, and Bobby catches her as she is confused as to where she is. Learning that she's in San Francisco, she can't remember why she's even there, and introduces herself as Lorna Dane when Bobby offers to help her. Back in New York, Angel and the others take a borrowed Avengers ship and head to Hank and Bobby's. Hank, though, is furious that Bobby brought her over when the other X-Men are about to arrive when they enter through the door. After checking on a sleeping Lorna, Angel fills them in on Cerebro's detection, and Hank tells them that he's almost completed a mini Cerebro and will finish it while they start looking into the mutant detections. The rest head out and soon find the mysterious guards, who spot the X-Men and begin shooting at them. Working together, they begin to make short work of the guards when one of them lines up a shot with Angel. Cyclops notices just in time and saves his friend. Jean stops one from sneaking up behind her, and Angel goes to tackle another when he's backhanded away and lies motionless on the ground. Checking that Angel's alright, they head back to their base, where Beast's mini Cerebro starts working and detecting a mutant slowly getting closer and closer to him. Turning around, he sees Lorna, whose hair is now green, and she tells him that it was dyed, and he figures out that she's a latent mutant and decides to keep her there till the others get back. The others return and explain that she's a mutant and tell her of Magneto, when Cyclops decides to solve the mystery of the gathering mutants. As they leave, Iceman stays to protect Lorna, while the others follow the mini Cerebro's signal to an old mansion. Back with Iceman, a group of guards bust into the room and are told to kill him. Building up an ice ball, he takes out a guard and freezes the other when Mesmero joins the fray. Iceman, feeling a pressure inside his head, finds himself unable to move and realizes that Mesmero is almost as powerful as Magneto himself. He hears Mesmero mention a weapon called M11 when Lorna yells for Bobby to do something when Mesmero turns his attention to her. To her shock, they kneel and begin to worship her as she pleads for help from the immobile X-Man.